So today I'm going to look at how Google works and answer some of the questions you probably have as to how you can get your website to rank higher in Google. Then I'm going to show you some of the tools and tips I use to help grow my business over the past few years, and particularly seeing it grow to over 45,000 visitors a month. So if you're an absolute beginner when it comes to SEO and your website, and you want everything just broken down so that it's done in a simple way, easy to follow, easy to understand, along with 13 tips that are going to help you, then this video is one that you're going to need to refer to on more than one occasion. So make sure you give it a subscribe and a like, and then I'll take you through the process right now. And so for those that watch to the end, I've got a real bonus for you, a little bonus tip that most people don't know about. So look out for that. But before we go into those 13 tips though, sometimes it's good to just get a good overview as to how Google works and what it's looking for to rank you higher. If you understand what Google's actually giving authority to and ranking for today, that's going to help you do the right things with little effort. So first of all, let's just ask the question, why is it you want to rank higher in Google? Because that's what you're looking for. Well, it's because you recognize if you rank higher up in Google, you'll get more traffic, you'll get more clicks, you'll get more people finding your business and coming through to your website, and thereby then there'll be inquiries, there'll be emails, there'll be sales, purchases, and so on. So in effect, getting higher in Google doesn't guarantee you anything, but it does mean you increase the opportunities of having new customers and clients. So then we could ask the question, well then why is it that others are ranking above you? Why is Google giving them authority? Well, sometimes it can be down to how long the business has been around. So it has an authority because it's been around for some time. It also can be down to its domain authority, which we'll come on to in a moment. It could be down to the number of backlinks and the authority that gives it. It can be down to the size of the business. There's what's known as standard SEO, which has been around for many years. SEO is search engine optimization. But also there's local SEO, which can give you an authority too. And that can be more helpful. And that's perhaps something that we've been considering more of in this channel with GMB, Google My Business. So your content needs to be really developed with the idea of what customers are currently looking for. And so trends can change, keywords can change too. So that's one of the things you want, is you want content on your website to be found by what people are currently looking for. So how do you find out what people are actually searching for in Google? Well, the simple trick is you can go to google.com, and if you start typing in the type of nature of what it is you're trying to optimize for, you'll see Google now has these suggestions. And there's also a way in which you can do the A to Z method, where if you start adding in A, you'll see what other optimizations are. And this is how you get your long tail keywords, by starting to get more than one word by using an ABC method. So what is Google actually trying to do? Well, it's trying to get the searcher to put in a keyword, and then it's then trying to find the relevant answer through other websites. So if you know what people are searching for, you can be the one who provides the answer on your website. So whether it's through a web page or through a blog, if you know people are looking for something, then why not write the content that answers that question? Now, what SEO people have done in the past is they've taken these keywords that have got high traffic, but they're just optimizing for the search engine. They're not thinking of the user. And that's where you can really be rewarded in Google at the moment and get a higher ranking, because as you start to answer real questions, and if Google recognizes that a certain website and certain web pages are being well written, well researched, are answering the questions of the users using Google, then Google starts to rank it higher. And that's how you can rank higher. So that's kind of an overview of what we're going to try to do together today. But of course, Google isn't a mind reader. So just because you know what your business does doesn't mean that Google does. So there are content, there is information, there is the title, there is the URLs. So the alt tags on images, the images themselves can even be understood by Google. When you put all those things together, Google's forming an opinion of not only what your website's about, but also what the individual pages are about, and also what the important pages are within the website. So as Google isn't a mind reader, if you're trying to sell, say, one thing, but you never mention it in the website, Google isn't going to send people that want to buy those things unless it knows about them in the first place. So think with your website, does it really say what it is that you do? And does it use the keywords, the phrases that your searchers would use when they're looking for it? So sometimes you can be too well informed about your business. So think more from your user's point of view, and that will help you rank as well. And it's also worth bearing in mind that Google offers different types of results depending on what's being searched. So it's known as structured data. It presents the information that people are looking for. So if you typed in, say, a math question, you'll get a different result to if you typed in a holiday destination or a what's happening locally situation, or if you're just looking for flowers, or you want to know more about a film or a movie. All these types of results will be very different to the types of results you get from something that's to do with your business. So just think in terms of, are there rich results that you could put up that will get new traffic through? These are all new ways, new methods Google's currently using that you can take advantage of, because the majority of businesses in the past haven't structured themselves yet to be found by Google in this way. So there's an advantage you can find. So that gives you kind of an overview of how Google is doing things at the moment. But we're now going to go a bit more deeper, and we're going to look at 13 things you can do right now that are going to help you to rank your business higher in Google. So let's now jump into that. So the first thing is to make sure that your website is the hub of everything your business is doing. Now, it could be easy to start making Facebook the hub, or to just make, perhaps say, Google My Business the hub. But ideally, you want to be in control of your business and what's said about your business. So what do we mean when we say make the website the hub? Well, if you think of a bicycle wheel, if you think about the fact that the hub is the center part and all the spokes come off from it. So whether you've got a Twitter account for your business, or Facebook, or LinkedIn, or Google My Business, whether you've got blogs elsewhere, whether you've got links elsewhere, you've got citations elsewhere, whether you've got Yell, whether you've got Checkatrade, whether you've got indexes linking back, or whether it's just a case of you've got your branding in other areas as well. Maybe you've got it, say, for example, on your van, you've got it on your letterhead, you've got it on your business cards. Everything should be linking back to your website. So your email, you want it to reflect your website. Your branding should reflect your website. There needs to be a consistency, but everywhere you go and you see anything about your branding or anything about your business, ultimately it leads them back to the website. And from the website, you can go back out to all those things too. Why? Because it means you've then got the control over your branding and your business. And this is often missed. What happens is, in the end, people start to spend time in one area and they forget to link back to their website. And so they then start to dilute the benefit that the website can get. So website hub is key. That's the first tip. Now, the second thing is to just make sure your website is actually being found in the search engine. So many people say, well, I had a website built, but no one's finding it. And the thing is there's two ways to find a website. You can either type in the URL, that's the website address, so like zanet.co.uk, or you can type in something similar to that into the search engine. And if the search engine knows about it, then hopefully it will then take you through to that website. So being found in Google, it means that the spider or the bot, Google bot, needs to find your website in the first place. And if you never ever talk about it, if no one ever links to it, if no authoritative site says about your website, then actually it may be that it's isolated, it never gets found. It's like building a shop in the desert and no one ever knowing it's there. So you do need an authoritative website to at least let Google know that your website's there. So for example, if I build a website for one of my customers, the first thing I'll do is I'll put their website on my portfolio. And because the spider comes and visits my site every few days, it will then find this new page, this new reference. It will go to their URL of the new website and it will then know about it. And once Google knows about a new website, it goes back every month and then gradually will go back even more regularly if it finds it's updated. So make sure that you're spidered. You talk about the web, but actually being found by the bot or being spidered is also a key element to this. Now, the third tip is to build authority. And you can build authority based on what people think about your website by linking to it, because it thinks the content's good or it thinks there's some informative information there. They're in effect giving it a vote of confidence or a vote of authority. Years ago, we used to talk about link juice or page rank in Google. And even though that's perhaps now lost to some degree, the principle of it still works. So how can you get these links to your website? Well, some go around asking for it, but actually very rarely will that work. What you really want is good quality content, and naturally people will link to it. Why? Because they see its value, and then when they're writing an article, they also want to allude to something specific in your article, so they'll link to it naturally. And because they generally tend to be linked, there'll be a similar type of subject, that also is viewed as another positive signal to Google's algorithm. And that will help you rank. So you'll gradually go up in Google's ranking the more quality backlinks you get from relative or similar types of websites. And there's a great way to find out whether you've gained or lost each month. You can get an email that comes through from this Ahref newsletter. You can set it up for free. You can go online as well and you can check to see what types of page rank or authority am I getting from the various people linking to me. And that could be a really useful way of seeing what type of progress and what type of information you're getting and what type of authority you're gaining through Google and the authoritative links. Now the fourth area is your page speed. Google's really made it important to check your page speed. Why? Well, because it will say that if someone goes to your website and it takes a long time to load, that's not great user experience. And remember what we said in our overview, that Google wants the best experience for its users. So when someone's looking for a question, the person waits 5 minutes for the answer, even though it's a quality article, because it's taken so long to load, Google won't see that, and nor will the user see that as a good experience. Whereas if it's quick loading, if it gives you the immediate answer within the second of loading, well then that will be considered great user experience. So Google's recognised that actually slow loading websites are not considered an authority. So there's something there in that. So that can be tricky sometimes because of the way your website's built, but if you can speed it up in any way, that helps. There are some add-ons. If you've got a WordPress CMS, you can get add-ons and plugins that will speed things up for you. If you're into coding, you can perhaps cut down on the JavaScript and the CSS. And there's also things you can run to check to see how you can get a quick loading start to the web page. NitroPack's an add-on that you can get. I'll put a link down below for it. And also it's got some money off, and it's also got an extra special coupon as well that I can give you. So have a look at the link down below if you want to use NitroPack. Now tip number 5, and which is one of the greatest changes in SEO recently, is that you can now be rewarded for making sure your website is mobile friendly. So everything should now be mobile first. So if you were to redesign your website today, you would design it based on for a mobile. And then you would then consider how would it look though on a larger screen or a laptop or a desktop. Years ago, when we designed websites in the past, we used to always design for the desktop and a large screen, and then we'd then adapt it to squeeze it into a phone or a mobile. So Google now rewards it being mobile first. Why? Well, because it will load quicker, and because also most people now, they access websites using their mobiles. If you look at your stats, you'll probably see that 50–60% of your visitors will be on a mobile. So that's now where the priority is. Google knows that. Google wants best user experience, so therefore Google will reward if you've got a mobile friendly website. And that doesn't mean that it just crams into a mobile, but it means it's usable, useful on a mobile. And there are plugins as well. If you've got a WordPress website, you can add a plugin that's called AMP, which is from Google, and that then just cuts it right down. It makes it a much faster loading theme as well that you can bolt onto your standard theme, and you'll find that that will not only give you a mobile friendly solution, but it'll also make your website load a lot faster. Now tip number 6 is the human touch. Now, if you can, keep your business personal. Try and have a face that people can come to. In fact, one of the big advantages of the smaller business is that you still are in touch with your customers. So when you go to large corporations, you perhaps phone and you can't speak to anyone. When you do speak to someone, it's perhaps a robot or where you have to answer various questions. It doesn't really have a personal touch anymore in larger businesses. But one of the places that smaller businesses can gain is the fact that they have someone that they can speak to at the other end. And the fact that you can have that personal touch. So you can answer questions, you can answer emails, you can respond when they've got a query or a customer issue. And this will build your credibility, it'll build your authority, it puts the human touch in there, and people then can trust that human person behind the business. And this will help you rank higher because trust is one of the elements, again, that Google uses, not so much from the algorithm point of view, but they have real users in Google that will see how things are being presented. And so if you have that personal touch, and if it's evident that customers are enjoying that interaction with you as a business owner, you find that they will rank you higher. They will tweak it so that you get ranked higher. Now, the 7th tip is to just think about the web address itself. So if you've written an article and it's about something in particular, say green dresses, then how do you then present that URL, that web address to the world? If it uses the word green dress in there, that will help it rank higher, because not only does the title and the H1 and H2 tags and the alt tags and so on have an impact on how something is ranked, but also the URL, that web address, if it has the keywords in it, that also is part of the algorithm and the authority given to that particular keyword. But then do you have it with a dash? Do you have it with an underscore? Do you put the two words together, in this case green dress? Well, Google's quite clear of what it likes and doesn't like. So have a look at your website, see how it's set up. Does it use a search engine friendly URL, or is it P = 27843? That doesn't mean anything at all from a keyword point of view. So many of the older, larger businesses and corporations still aren't always using search engine friendly URLs on their website. And also when you think about the domain itself as well, Google gives quite a high authority to the domain when it comes to the keywords. So if you can get your domain to include a keyword to do with your business. So for example, if you were a 24-hour plumber, and you were called 24hourplumberbournemouth.co.uk, that would have an impact. But how would you have the 24-hour plumber? How would you have all that put in the URL? Is there a way to do that? Well, it might be worth, if you're considering that, having a look at this web page. I'll put again a link down to it down below in a description of this video. So the 8th tip is just to think of keywords, but don't start going for the keywords that all those ones above you in the rankings have gone for. Go for the ones that they haven't gone for. Now, the reason they haven't gone for them is maybe they don't bring as much traffic on an individual basis per keyword. But these are long tail keywords, these perhaps ones that don't bring so much traffic. When you start adding them all together, you can get a huge volume of traffic. And the difference is there's no competition, because they're not competing for these. So you can then rank number 1 for perhaps keywords that only bring in a few hundred people. But because you then show to the algorithm that you're answering their questions and people are staying longer on your website, you'll find that in time, the whole website will begin to grow in ranking, because you're now showing to Google that you're an authority on those long tail keywords. And so in time, you'll find that you'll already naturally be giving a higher authority in the harder, the keywords that perhaps are harder to compete with. So as time goes by and your ranking goes up, you already will find that it has then a benefit to your other keywords that maybe you haven't ranked in the past. So you can improve your ranking by not actually focusing on the keywords that are too difficult for your website. Now, the 9th tip is to just make sure that Google knows exactly what pages you want ranking. So it might be there's a few pages that you don't want to be found in Google search engine, that's fine. But Google Search Console enables you to upload an XML sitemap. How do you get an XML sitemap? Well, you can produce one by hand if you wanted, but the simplest way is, again, if you've got WordPress, you can use a plugin that will do that for you. There are also some online plugins you can get that can just scan your website and come up with an XML sitemap. But the XML sitemap basically tells Google where all your pages are on the website. And Google then will go away, it will come back, it will go away, it will come back. And each time it will look at the XML sitemap. And every time you update your website, you update your XML sitemap as well. And so the Search Console then can find that. But the easiest way to do all these things is to use an SEO plugin like Yoast. There it will just make a brand new XML sitemap every so often, and Google knows exactly where to turn to go for that, because in the Search Console, you can let Google know exactly where that XML sitemap is. So that's the way in which you get the traffic to come to all your new pages, the XML sitemap. The 10th tip is just think about your branding. Branding builds trust. If your branding is clear, it's strong, it's authoritative, you know who you are, you know what you're presenting, you know what your keywords are as well, they trust a brand. So there are some well-known brands in the high street, but also locally there are well-known brands. So can you make it so that your brand is seen so often that it's almost like you're competing against the nationals? Well, that's something that you need to aim for. But if you can find ways of using your brand, never changing it, but keeping it consistent, those things can have quite a large impact over time. Now, similar to local branding is also local SEO, and Google My Business is a great vehicle to get you seen locally. The reason being is that Google doesn't really tend to look at whether they're a national business or an authority throughout the whole of the UK or the whole of your country. But what they will do is they will check to see whether or not locally, within a few miles radius, that you're the authority. So quite quickly with local SEO, you can be the authority in your area. And to do that, Google My Business has really been designed specifically to help you in that area. So I'm not going to touch on Google My Business today, but for those of you that have subscribed in the past, you'll know that Google My Business is a fantastic way of increasing your business. And the reason why that then helps you rank nationally too and improve your ranking in Google is because you'll then get traffic, and that traffic itself gives Google the signal that not only locally are you being found, but you'll find it'll have an impact on your national SEO too. And the 12th tip really is to try and make sure that your website isn't just built in HTML. What's known as a CMS, a content management system, is ideal here. And WordPress is probably the most popular CMS. WordPress used to be considered a blog. I mean, it is a blogging platform, but actually it's a great way now to manage content. It means you can change your themes from time to time and your branding, but it also means you've got these great plugins that are free that you can use for SEO purposes. So there's a Rank Math, there's Yoast we mentioned earlier, there's all-in-one SEO. And what these do is these will show you how Google will view your web page when you design it. So you can put in, say with Yoast, you can put in a search term or a keyword term that you're trying to rank in, and it'll show how that could be presented, how the title would work, how the description works within it too, whether you've used it enough naturally throughout the whole of that page, whether you've got it in alt tags, or whether the whole of the headings are supporting it, the H1 and the H2 tags and so on. And it just gives you a good overview as to see how Google is likely to deal with that article when it spiders it, finds it, and then puts it into a ranking process. My 13th tip is to use Sitekit. And what Sitekit does is it just gets together the analytics, the search console, the information generally about your website and how it's viewed by Google, and puts it in a way in which you can easily understand it. If you've used analytics before, you'll know that you can just get lost in it. You can dig so deep you can almost disappear in the analytics. What Sitekit does is just makes it user-friendly, easy to understand, helps you to know where to optimize, and the beauty of it is it sits within your CMS. So if you've got WordPress, for example, there it is within your WordPress environment. And if you want to make edits, you want to make changes, you want to see how you can improve, how you can backlink, how you can internally link, even externally link, all these things will help it to grow in its authority. But you can do it on a level by level basis or a page by page basis. Now, as a little bonus as well, I mentioned it for those that have watched to the end, you know, you can get a lot of traffic. And this is one way that most people don't consider, and that's through optimizing images for Google image search. Now, most people don't realize, but a lot of the results that come up when you do a search, if they need to be image led, then Google puts the images right to the top. And a lot of my traffic comes from images. Now, because I'm a graphic designer and a web designer, then a lot of my images I produce, so whether it's icons, or whether it's infographics, but they tend to be quite well ranked. And only because Google then is aware that they're useful, but also they're unique. So if you're using images that come from, say, Shutterstock or iStock, images that you haven't taken yourself, you'll find you probably won't get any ranking for them because Google knows them 1,000 times over on other websites. But if you're taking photographs for your website within your own studio, within your own vicinity of your company or your business, and you upload those to your website and Google comes across them and spiders them. Or if you've got graphics or you've got information or you've got charts that are really helpful, you'll suddenly find you get a lot of traffic through uploading those. So Pinterest is one way to do that, but using just images with alt tags, that in itself will produce a great deal of traffic in Google image search. Now earlier we mentioned the importance of keywords and understanding how long tail keywords can help your business. What I want you to do now is go to this video and I'm going to show you all the tools I use to find keywords that bring the maximum amount of traffic to my business.